Hello, everyone. I first want to start off by saying thank you to RISMedia for putting on another fantastic panel. And I'm really excited to dive into today's topic of scaling your brokerage and efficiently expanding your team and your reach. Whether you are just starting out on expansion or if you are already leading a growing team, the question of how to scale effectively is one that every broker owner and team leader has asked themselves at some point in their journey. So I'm Jackie Liu. I am the COO of Lamaki Realty, and I have had the privilege of being a part of a company that started out as a small team and has grown into a full-service brokerage serving multiple markets. And along the way, we have faced every type of growth challenge you could imagine, from recruiting to training agents and building a brand, and managing operations and marketing at scale. And I can say without a doubt that growth is as much about systems and strategy as it is about people and passion. Okay, you have to have all of those things covered if you truly want to grow your company. And today I am joined by a powerhouse of panelists, and each one brings a unique perspective and proven experience in scaling brokerages. And we'll talk about what works, what doesn't work. We'll talk about what you absolutely need to know if you're serious about bringing your company to the next level. We're going to cover recruiting and retention and expanding into new markets. So all of those things we're going to talk about today. And something to keep in mind, growing your company isn't just about numbers. It isn't just about adding on agents. You need to build a brokerage that is going to last, one that can adapt, and one that innovates and continues to serve clients and agents at a very high level. So let me start by introducing our panelists, starting with our valued sponsor, TJ Tyler of Inside Real Estate. TJ is currently the Senior VP of Client Growth at Inside Real Estate. And he formerly handled enterprise sales at Zillow. So he has spent many years helping brokerages across North America really scale their business and take their business to the next level. And he truly understands how various tech platforms can help you accomplish the growth that you want to achieve. Up next, we have Scott McDonald, who is broker owner and president of RE/MAX Gateway in Chantilly, Virginia. Scott has served as a speaker and panelist in numerous industry events, and Scott has built his business and brokerage on providing top-notch training and development for his agents and excellent customer service. And since taking ownership of RE/MAX Gateway in 2001, the company has grown to 4 offices and is regarded as a leader in the Northern Virginia and DC metro real estate market. And Scott has received numerous career accolades, including a nomination for Realtor of the Year and induction into the RE/MAX Hall of Fame. And our final panelist, Colby Lampman, is the CEO and broker of Homes of Idaho and CEO of Homes International, and leading one of the fastest growing real estate organizations in the region. Colby leads a company of 600 or so agents and is known for building scalable systems, empowering agent success, and his approach combines high-performance coaching, tech integration, and expansion into new markets. And Colby, like everyone on this panel, is passionate about raising industry standards, mentoring leaders, and delivering exceptional service. Okay, so I am excited to dive in, but before we do, TJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your company does and how it can help with growth and expansion?
Thank you, Jackie. First of all, appreciate and big thank you to RISMedia for having us here today. This is an excellent panel that we've got here. At Bold Trail, I'm with Inside Real Estate, provider of Bold Trail technology and many other platforms that we have kind of combined into one solution, which I think is the theme of what we'll be talking about a little bit today. When you think about technology, people, process, and technology are what build a fast-paced growing business. And in that technology component, we believe at Inside Real Estate that technology should be working for the agent, not the other way around, right? So the old perspective would be, oh no, I need to go and log into my CRM because I need to do this, I need to do all this work, but I hate to do it. We actually want to flip it on its head and say, what is the technology doing for the agent to free the agent up to go do more work, right? And there's a lot of ways to do that. I was talking to an agent the other day and I said, how many systems do you have to log into? And we all know the answer is really high. In fact, the industry average is an agent's going to log into 10 to 15 different platforms in order to do their work. That's crazy, right? And a recent study just came out that tracked the number of steps needed for an agent to actually complete one transaction. 180 required steps was the number of steps required for an agent to go all the way through a transaction. That's across 10 to 15 different platforms. We think that's insane. And that's what we're trying to solve for here by partnering with brokers, with agents, and with teams. The idea being, number one, we want to get more conversations for the agents with customers, not more leads. I don't think we need more leads. We got a lot of leads in the world. I can get leads a lot of places. How do I get conversations with the agent and with home buyers and sellers? Two, how do we help them actually convert those conversations into transactions? At the end of the day, that is what we're trying to help our partners do. We also want to help them improve the experience around those closings, surprise and delight the actual customer. And then for our brokers and team leaders and office managers, what sense of control can we actually give you? The tools that you need for recruiting the best agents, the right agents that fit your model, retain those agents and grow your business. So I'd say all in all, that's kind of what we believe, and we're excited to be here today. So thank you for having us.
Thank you, TJ. Appreciate that. And I like that you said, agents certainly get overwhelmed with all of the tech platforms that are out there and trying to remember logins for each and every single one. It's too much for a lot of them, and a lot of them throw their hands up and they don't want to even try utilizing the tech, which I think tech plays a pretty big piece in their business and really scaling and streamlining it. So I like that you guys try to simplify that. Okay, so let's get into it. And before we talk about the actual recruiting piece of it and the retention, let's talk about offerings, because you want to have things available, of course, that attract agents to your company, that draw agents to your company. And let's start with tech while we're on the topic of that. There are a number of agents who take advantage of every tech platform a company has to offer. And then there are others who say, no thanks, I'm all set. I do perfectly fine on my own without any of that tech. But I think not having the tech available for the agents is probably a detriment to a company's business and to a company's growth. So you need to have these things available for them. Whether or not they choose to use it, that's completely up to them, but at least give them the option. So Colby, let's start with you. How important is tech to your agents, to them growing their business, and to you ultimately attracting agents into your company?
Absolutely. I feel like having all these offerings as a brokerage, having solutions for agents to help in their business is very important. One thing that we take an approach where, we don't force our technology on agents. We don't force them to adopt and use our tools. We do in terms of like the back office software. And just to clarify, Inside Real Estate is our kind of all-in-one. To TJ's point, I feel like agents can get very overwhelmed, confused, forget passwords, forget logins. So as a company, it's nice to have that one dashboard that agents can go to, accessing all things. And what's nice about the partnership with Inside Real Estate too is, we can say, hey, back office, everyone needs back office, in terms of CRMs, in terms of that kind of stuff. Some agents will use it, some, want to use their own CRM, whatever that looks like. We want to make it really simple and easy for them to adopt our tools, not require them, but make it very simple. I know that, as a 600 agent brokerage, well over 50% of our agents are using our tools and our systems. So way more than half, and they're logging in and using it on a daily basis. A lot of them have, and by using it, what I mean is actually 52% or more of our agents are logging in on a third, every single month or every single day they're logging in using the systems and tools that we have and that we offer. So we're a lot more of them have adoption of our systems and tools, but over 52% are using it on a very frequent basis. And it's kind of for us, and my advice to any other brokers out there, look for systems that grow with you. As you never know what's going to come around. I never thought I'd be 600 agent brokerage in multiple states. I feel like that's just kind of, we'll get into recruiting and kind of that path later, but I feel like, tech, you kind of want to look at what do I need today? And if you have goals that that you're tracking, metrics you're tracking, what do I need tomorrow when I grow? And I feel like we partnered with Inside Real Estate. Once we had over about 100 agents, we started to realize that the tools that we had wasn't equipped for expansion and being in multiple areas, have multiple offices, having teams in our brokerage that may want to adopt and have their own functionality on an admin level. So, Inside Real Estate has all that functionality. We can kind of, again, I feel like there's other companies that are in partnership with Inside Real Estate. What I love about the partnership is, we've created kind of a unique, what is our brand? They put our brand at the center. We can kind of take and say, hey, this is the way we'd like to partner and provide tools to our agents. So not every brokerage that has those tools is going to be equal. And they have a marketplace, that either on a brokerage level, we can have an enterprise subscription, or agents or teams can kind of go into that marketplace and choose what they're going to use. But I do feel like for us, just tools that can help us scale, and that's my best advice, is find those tools that's going to help you, scale your company, not just now, but later, so you don't always have to keep changing things up. I feel like consistency is key. What can you provide in terms of consistency, and but also adapt to what changes are happening as well. And that's something that Inside Real Estate, that partnership, has done well for us.
Nice. And your usage rate, that's impressive. That's a good number. Obviously, you want to hire as high as it can go, but I'd say that's pretty good. Now, are you training, I would imagine, pretty frequently on these tech programs, so it's in their face and they understand how to use it, so they're more comfortable?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we don't force it on agents. So have that adoption rate is good, that there's that many agents log in using the systems on a frequent basis. But yeah, that's, I think, attributed to a lot of it is, some agents want to learn and understand intimately how to use the tools. So having training in your company that teaches on your tools, making that training available either through, live in person, one-on-one group setting training, webinars, having recorded training for them to glean from. I know Inside Real Estate has their own, training that agents can get access to as well, but I feel like offering it in your brokerage and kind of immersing it in your brokerage is crucial. And then, I even think that some agents are going to want you to help kind of do it for them. They'd rather, hey, I love that there's this ability to go in and be so customized with my platform, but is there someone that I can just push the easy button and do it for me? So that would be another thing I would advise, is have some sort of specialists, either internal, external, either part of your team or just contracted people that can come in and help, help agents kind of do it for them. I know that, again, giving Inside Real Estate like credit in their marketplace, they have kind of a done for you category of offerings that can help them do things for agents, like customize their website, their campaigns, their newsletters, stuff like that. But we like to take the extra approach that, hey, if somebody wants someone in person to sit down with them and do it, very hands-on, we have that resource as well.
Love it. Thank you. And Scott, what about you? How does tech play into your agent's growth and ultimately the company's growth?
Yep. So, we were early adopters into technology when we started our company back in 2001. And it's basically table stakes anymore when you go through recruiting and providing tools and technology for your agents. You need to have the best ones available to them for their success, and they pretty much expect it whether they use it or not, right? It's just a tick box in their decision-making program that they have when selecting a brokerage. So if you don't offer it, you'll lose agents to companies who do, but it helps attract people when you do have all the best tools available to you. So being affiliated with RE/MAX, we have the full Bold Trail suite. So we utilize that as much as possible. But what we've also engaged in, because we do have multiple platforms for our agents, is we have a new intranet site that we've adopted, where agents can go in, they can get single sign-on, and they'll have everything that they need right at their fingertips, from Bold Trail, Dotloop, Bright MLS, our newsletters, our internal trainings that we have that we've recorded over time. So anything that the agents need, they can just go to one spot, get everything in one place, which TJ mentioned earlier. There's so many platforms to go to. However many platforms they have, we can import it into StackWrap and have that available to them as well. So it's not just what we provide, but what the agents subscribe to on their own if they're not using what we have and they have something additional. So we try to make their lives as easy as possible by having that one place to go and that one resource for them to utilize to make them more effective, more efficient, and hopefully do more business.
Yeah, that's key, making it as simple as possible for them. Otherwise, they won't use it. They won't adapt to it. So I like that you have one central location where they can access all of the things. That's smart. That's something I think I mentioned on our pre-call that we're going to start as well with the intranet. So we're looking forward to that because, I mean, let's be honest, switching companies, joining a new company, it's overwhelming trying to learn all of the new systems. And if you don't make it as easy as possible, then you could potentially lose that agent. Okay, so tech obviously is a big piece. Whether or not the agents want to use it is up to them. Colby, I like how you said that you don't force it. I don't think that you should force it. That's something that we actually switched not too long ago, to be honest. We had everybody in our tech packages, and then we said that's not smart. That's just turning agents off. So let's just make this optional. So that's a good takeaway for those of you who are listening. Make things optional. Don't force it on them. Okay, so what are some other services and things that you provide for your agents to make their lives easier? I know for us, we have a number of services available, and the idea is to just have everything in-house, make our company a one-stop shop so they don't have to go shopping around to all of these other places to get a TC, to get photography, things like that. Scott, what are some of those offerings that you have for the agent?
Yep. So we have office administrators who help agents with doing brochures, doing their newsletters monthly, helping them with adding people to their database. So some of the basic admin roles that agents don't need to go and hire an admin, as an example. Then we have transaction coordination services where they take the contract from contract to close for the agents. So we have both services available to all the agents to make their lives easier. We have an in-house CFO who can go over numbers with the agents to see where they're tracking as far as last year goes to this year. And then we have our director of office operations who will help them train on technology. And so she's in place to onboard the agents. We have an extensive onboarding program, but going through all the suite of resources that we have to make sure that everybody's up to speed with what we offer, and they can, again, just like Colby, pick and choose what they want to use. But Jennifer's there as a resource for them on a regular basis to meet one-on-one, meet with groups. We have Tech Thursday training. We have tons of training. Monday and Wednesday we do training. We have Talk It Up Tuesday. So we're always in front of our agents, helping them grow, helping them learn about the business, helping them effectively communicate with their clients so that the clients make the right decisions, whether they're selling or buying a house. So we have a lot of tools and resources available and a lot of people available to them.
And that's important. Having these things, the agents have them available at their fingertips and they can just scale their business with all of the services that you provide. I think that's important. Colby, what about you?
Yeah, I feel like you can kind of go different directions with services and offerings. You can have staff members that are dedicated to specific things. We have kind of a core leadership team that they do have a specific role for the company. Some of it is, back end, and some of it is agent facing, agent servicing. Our back office manager is always helping with commission processing questions, helping create efficiency in that department, and working in the back office and Bold Trail to, in terms of, engagement, making sure agents are, and then our compliance department too. That's a real, back office, and using those tools to make sure agents are, getting paid. That's the number one thing they want is, get their commission as quickly as they can in their hands. So, having that efficiency is key. But yeah, we have other providers in-house that are kind of independent, contractor, not on leadership team, but really providing tools and or resources to our agents and kind of dedicated to our agents to say, hey, I'm helping with marketing support. I'm helping with transactional support, whatever their skill set may be. We kind of want agents to feel really supported in that area. So I know some people have staffed transaction coordinators. That's a great way of doing it. Or just kind of our HI preferred. So our company logo HI in all areas, our preferred resources, like you said, photography, all of it, kind of a one-stop shop for anything they need. I feel like Inside Real Estate's doing that on a technology level, kind of that all-in-one, and so on a brokerage level, understanding, intimately what your agents need in their business and having a solution for it. And I think what I hear, very commonly between me and Scott is we're not trying to force you to use this, these resources, but we have them available. So if you want to go outside and use your own photographers, you want to go outside and use, something outside of our resources, you can, but we just want to provide, as good of service, as good pricing as we can, as good of everything, so that when you are with our company, you're getting things that we've been able to negotiate on scale for our company that they may not be able to get elsewhere. So, but yeah, really just things that help them in productivity. People that help them, coach them. In-house coaching is a real huge one. Training. And having, it sounds like between Scott and you, Jackie, just, somewhere they can go that knows, hey, this is what trainings are happening and when, the calendar, everything's kind of integrated into, you guys talked about an intranet type approach to things. So I just feel like that's really important, when you have that kind of level of access to the company to engage with whatever the tools are and systems and quick links to everything, and, access to the calendar. And then access to whoever it is, whether it's, a company perk, a company offering. We have, on this size of brokerage, I think it's kind of not usually heard of on a brokerage level, but, we do have like in-house moving trucks too, and just things like discounts that they can get for their clients, from, moving to, discounts on hotels, car rentals, movers, things that we've negotiated discounts for that our agents and clients can benefit from too. So.
Absolutely. I like that. So all of these things, you have your offerings, that's what's going to attract, or some of the things that are going to attract agents to your company. Now, as far as growth goes, because I think a lot of people struggle with agents as well, not just, owners, when to bring on additional help. When is it time to bring on an administrative assistant? When is it time to bring on a marketing coordinator? And I'm sure you all have, had that situation come up where you've said, either to yourselves or to agents, okay, it's time for you to bring on some help. Otherwise, you are not going to be able to grow any further. There's only so much you can do. You hit a limit. So let's talk about knowing when that point is. TJ, I don't know if you want to offer any insight there when I know you deal with a lot of leads and teams and things like that, but any conversations about that?
I certainly hear a lot about it from people like Scott and Colby, and we have a broker advisory council. We want to be very close to the heart of the agent and the broker to understand what's going on all the time. Certainly. What's interesting is really the innovation side of things, right? Innovation is changing the game. I don't know if we're going to touch on AI, but like AI is changing the game. We bought an AI company a month or two ago to further out build the product and continue to make things easier because of this problem, right? The problem is you're trying to scale and be more and more and more efficient and take away some of that work. So we're trying to do that for our agents. What I hear a lot of times is there's like breaking points, and I think Scott and Colby can talk to this better, but there's probably points where maybe when you hit 50 agents, when you hit 100 agents, when you hit 500 agents, there are certain scaling points to where you have to then expand your back end side. I think they'll probably be better off to talk about that.
Yeah, Scott, why don't you go ahead? When did you say, okay, it's time to bring on some more people? I can't do it all.
Yeah, at the very beginning.
Smart.
One thing is that I learned early on, if you don't have an assistant, you are one. And so you need to really determine what your strengths and your weaknesses are and hire to your weaknesses. Don't try and build on your weaknesses, improve your weaknesses, grow on your strengths. And so when I first started, I knew I didn't want to be sitting behind a desk all day, answering phones and running the books and doing things like that. I needed to be out in front of clients, in front of agents, trying to recruit agents and so forth. So I started off hiring somebody right away. And I think what's important for agents when they get started a business is to do the same thing. It's important to learn every aspect of the business, but what agents need to be doing is out talking with people, communicating with people, building relationships, and generating leads. We're in a lead generation business, and you can't do that by doing paperwork, right? You need to be out in front of people. So I think it's important to do that piece right away. Hiring an assistant, hiring a bookkeeper or CFO, depending on how big your company is going to grow to be. Don't be cheap. Spend the money on the right people, because it will cost you in the long run if you don't do that up front. So what I think is important is that. So then as you grow, especially with teams and growing team members, when you have too many leads that you can't handle, that's when you hire your buyer agent. Don't start off with a buyer agent right away and not an assistant. Wait till you have too many leads that you can't handle and then bring on a buyer agent and keep growing that way. They're going to join your team because you have the leads and you have the systems, and you can't have the systems if you don't have an admin person. And same thing with your company. So I think that's why it's important to have that. And then I think that a manager can probably handle about between 35 and 50 people. So once you get every 35 to 50 people on your team, you need to have that many managers to handle the agent questions, agent contracts, compliance, and so forth. Colby might have a different number in his mind about how many people somebody can effectively answer to, and it's all about training them to be able to handle as many people as they can. But I think 35 to 50 is about the right number from a management standpoint.
Yeah, smart to say do it right away. I think a lot of people are, maybe short-sighted. This is a lot of money up front. I can't do it. Yes, it may be a lot of money up front, but think of all the money it's going to bring in and save you on the other side of it. So I like that. Don't be short-sighted. Hire quick. Well, not quick.
Spend money to make money, right?
Be thoughtful. Yes, you have to spend money to make money. Yep. Colby, what about you? At what point are you saying, okay, I need to bring more support staff in?
Yeah, I would say, one thing we've learned definitely more so lately, and have people that help with this identify, is, first you want to make sure your current team, operates at a very high level, that everybody's very, performing on a high level. I think sometimes, just making sure you have those right people in place, because that can always kind of falsely make you think you need to hire, when really, is everybody truly working at a high level? Is everybody aligned culturally? And kind of, contributing at a very high level, and then, invest in them, make sure they have the tools they needed to work efficiently. Like, again, our back office team, if they didn't have the back office tools, it would take them a lot more hours to do their workload and do their day if they didn't have the right tools in place. So just make sure they're supported, they have the right training, that they're coachable. And then based on that, if you have that, and it just depends too, I guess, on what kind of services you want to offer to your agents. I feel like some brokerages are like, hey, we want to be kind of, maybe, offer more or less. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I feel like some companies, are, hey, we're going to be this kind of structure, and these are the kind of, this is the kind of support we want. And then other teams are going to offer a lot more hands-on and going to need more staff to provide those kind of resources. I do feel like the bigger you get, and with a properly organized team working at a high level, and maybe have certain staff members that have certain number of people that report to them, and then below that certain amount of people reporting to them, you can kind of scale and have staff take on more agents that they're working with, for sure. So I think that just depends on your size, because I feel like when you're smaller, you're probably going to have more staff per agent, versus you start scaling, you're going to have ability to kind of scale better in that arena. But yeah, I feel like once you start to feel like between yourself and the leadership team, and you start to feel like there's people are, again, you can either be proactive and hire before there's a need. You can kind of look and evaluate, is everyone working at a high level? Are they feeling stressed and have a lot on their plate? And what are the gaps in your company too? Because I feel like sometimes I look and I say, okay, we have these positions filled, but there's this area where there's a gap, and we could use someone with this sort of talent. And then just deciding, do we hire, add more people to our leadership team, or is this something I can go out and outsource, to a company that can provide this? And different people have different approaches. I think, there's virtual assistants, there's companies that provide efficiency, like that are going to do certain things for you in your company. You can outsource HR, you can outsource this or that, whatever it is. But when there's a gap, just how are we going to fill that gap? Are we going to hire somebody on leadership? Are we going to bring in an independent contractor, or are we going to look for a service or a tool or something we can add into our organization that can fill this hole or this gap? So those are the ways that we definitely evaluate whether to hire or not. So.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned the outsourcing. That is something that we started maybe 2 or 3 years ago now at this point, and it has had massive impacts on our company, both financially and growth-wise, having people outside of the company that, don't necessarily work our hours, they work the off hours, so that we have that 24-hour-a-day help essentially. And that's been pretty significant for us. So I like that. And then having the right people in the right seats. And we do see from time to time, when you grow too quickly, there's a tendency, oh my gosh, we're growing so fast, we need to bring on more people to help support the agents. And that, you got to really be mindful of that and say, okay, we're bringing on all of this additional support, but is everybody truly busy? Are there people who are only working maybe 3 hours a day that we could, slim back on some of that? So keeping an eye on that, making sure everybody is busy and you don't have any people who are just sort of floating through the day, not doing anything. But you have to be smart with that and make sure to hire when it is appropriate to bring on additional help, and don't be short-sighted. So TJ, you mentioned AI, so let's get into it. AI is certainly something that is very prominent right now. And it's funny, I was talking to our vice president of marketing, and she said it's easier to scale with technology than it is with people, because we were discussing AI and how that can really help efficiency. So do either of you, Scott, Colby, are you using AI in your companies? If so, how? Go ahead, Colby.
Yeah, we have a kind of a Teams ChatGPT subscription for Teams that our leadership team can utilize. So that is available to our leadership team. We have, I know Inside Real Estate has partners that offer tools in terms of lead qualifying, lead ranking, even lead conversion that's utilizing AI. Probably a lot more things they're working on behind the scenes that I've kind of in terms of creating that sort of efficiency. I know, gosh, there's so much that you can plug in, even our phone system. What can we do to help track meetings that we have, instead of somebody having to be a note taker? Use AI for note taking, use AI for so many different things that you can utilize it, so that it kind of decreases that workload for the staff, but also creates efficiency in the agent's business as well. That's something that's very on the top of our interest list in terms of, and I'm sure it is Inside Real Estate's too, is how can we create efficiency in an agent's business, either from things that the company can introduce them to, or things the company can provide them with. And so, yeah, and that's something that, whether it's going to an Inside Real Estate conference, they have a lot of things that at their Unite conference they were introducing in terms of AI, but it feels like it's really heavy topic right now and constantly evolving and adapting. And so I'd say just ride with it, adopt it, have it in your company, and make sure agents are up to speed. I've heard other people say, like, hey, it's evolving so fast, you start training on it, that training is going to be outdated. And so but just having those tools and resources that are growing as AI advances and grows, and scaling. But yeah, for sure, our leadership team has access to ChatGPT, the Pro or Plus or whatever they call it, and then our agents, we're always looking for ways to help them with either lead qualification, marketing, having things available that can help them, logo creation, you name it. I mean, it's all there, and some of it's just offered just under the ChatGPT level, or you can go really deep and find some really specialized products out there that offer offer AI for a specific purpose in an agent's business. So.
Nice. So TJ, you just mentioned that your company acquired an AI company. So talk to us about that. What is AI doing for your company? How are you promoting it to the agents to help them?
Yeah, a couple things to keep in mind when, some people hear technology, just like when the internet was scary back in the day and you hear AI and you think, oh, it's going to replace me and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The way we view it at Inside Real Estate is AI is not there to replace the agent. It's there to enhance the agent, right? The idea is to get rid of those 180 steps that we talked about earlier and get the agent talking to more buyers and sellers. How can we do that more and get rid of some of the other stuff that's out there? And the other component is this isn't just about AI for the sake of the agent or the broker. It's also for the buyers and the sellers who, guess what? They demand this type of experience. And it's our job to provide that experience. One of the things we're doing with some of the technology we recently purchased is changing over our websites, so that instead of the usual experience of any portal or website of going in and check boxes that say I want a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, this square footage, this price range, now you can use natural language, whether that's typing it in or even voice to text, and just say, hey, I'm kind of looking for a house. I want it to look a little bit of a farm style. I want it to be a small to mid-size. I want it in this area. I want it to have a really pretty exterior, maybe a craftsman style. And you use that kind of language and it automatically pulls up everything you want, right? There's a lot of data to be had in there, and that's not the kind of data that we need an agent manually working on, and is not something you want your consumer doing. We want to beat that out there. We want to equip all of our partners to have that technology that they're putting in front of the buyers and sellers that are out there.
I like that, and I like that you took it to the buyer's perspective and the seller's perspective as well, because, well, honestly, without buyers and sellers, we are nothing. So that was a good little plug there. And Scott, what about you? Are you utilizing AI or not quite yet, or what are your?
Oh no, we definitely are. We embraced it early on, and our belief is that agents who utilize AI are going to replace those who don't. So you have to adapt and adopt to it. It definitely makes you more efficient. I don't believe that it's going to entirely replace agents. So that's why agents need to learn how to utilize it best for their business. So we're doing trainings on it. We're showing agents how to use not only ChatGPT, but Grok. Perplexity is another one that we use that goes and does research on buyers and sellers, and also the agents that we're looking to recruit, so you learn more about them. And then there's Gamma, which is a presentation software that we're utilizing. We enter ChatGPT prompts into it, and it goes and finds pictures and puts language to it and puts a slide presentation together in just, basically minutes. So there's a lot of things that we're doing with it. And again, to help our agents with buyer presentations, seller presentations, talking about the contract and so forth. So we've been utilizing it to, again, enhance their offerings to the sellers and buyers. That shows that they're doing more and have adopted technology more to give them an advantage over an agent who's not.
I like it. Yeah, it's wild, the things that AI can do.
Right.
But I do think it's very powerful and can certainly alleviate inefficiencies for sure. All right, so let's get into recruiting. Let's talk about what your recruiting looks like. Do you have a legitimate process in place, or is it just I'm going to cold call rosters or agents in my area? So let's talk a little bit about that. Scott, do you have something in place, like a process that you are following on recruiting? Do you have people doing the recruiting for you, or are you doing it? What does it look like?
So our best recruiters have been our agents. Our agents are happy with our services, and they're talking to agents out on the street, and they're finding out who's not happy, right? And so we're extremely responsive as a management team. We have Patty Glenn, who's our director of real estate operations, who is quick to answer questions about contracts, the agent's business. I'm there to help them as well. And then, as I mentioned before, we have Jennifer, who does a lot of the onboarding and training of agents with the technology. So agents appreciate that. So when they're out on the street, they're saying, hey, you need to talk to Gateway about joining them. So we have that program. Also on our case processing sheets, is this an agent that you would want to have recruited? So that gives us additional leads there. And then we have, we do BombBomb videos and email them out to our recruits. I do videos weekly on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, just talking about the market to show agents and be that agent's broker before you're their broker, talking about different issues in real estate. And then we have email campaigns. We utilize Happy Grasshopper to keep in front of agents. We customize our email campaigns based upon how the market is and what we're hearing about the market, and what we're doing for our agents to help them in the market that we're in, whether it's pricing, negotiations, getting multiple contracts through, as an example. So we have a number of different things that we do, and we have to, as Colby mentioned it previously, is be consistent, right? So have the consistent systems and processes in place to ensure your growth, because there are going to be agents that get out of the business. And so you need to replace those agents, but we want to replace them with quality, not quantity. We want to be able to say that, you know, they uphold our professionalism and our reputation in the marketplace as well. So we're selective on the agents that we hire, whether they're new or not. We don't hire part-time agents. We only hire full-time agents. When they're new, we have a mentor program to help them. So we have a lot of offerings that we can give new agents in the business as well as experienced agents.
You said about 25 things that I could continue this conversation for another 5 hours, so that was fantastic. But I do like you posting videos. When you educate, you attract, right? And by doing that, they're going to look to you as the leader. Hey, my broker's not doing this. Why don't I go to a company that's going to give me all of this education and give me this training? And that's what they need, despite many seasoned agents saying, I don't need the training. We know they all do. There's always something new happening in real estate. So I like that. And Colby, let's go to you, and then we'll tap into some of the other things that were brought up here.
Absolutely. I think, you know, you mentioned earlier, Jackie, you know, do you cold call? And I think, you know, Scott also said kind of agents being the recruiters. Yeah, we have never had anyone, you know, internal, external, do any cold calling for growth. I feel like, you know, if you put the effort and focus on the agents you have and really just pour into them, they're going to be, like to Scott's point, they're going to be your recruiters. I don't feel like you need a multi-level rev share plan in your brokerage to have agents want to recruit for you. You just have to serve them, you know, and serve their needs and serve them well. And so when they encounter an agent who's like, man, I'm struggling, I'm out here doing this or that, and they say, oh, our brokerage, you know, supports you in that, or can help you or coach you or do these things. I think, again, you know, not saying there's anything bad with rev share, but or that's, you know, a problem. I just feel like it's in a sense potentially unnecessary if you just have really good culture in your company and really good value that you're bringing your agents, just like they're providing value to their clients, and we train them to, you know, build a referral-based business. That's what you want to build as a brokerage, is a referral-based business. And so, you know, just, you know, and we don't, I don't think we have like a blueprint for recruiting. I think, you know, we've kind of evolved in our approach. At first it was, you know, bringing a lot of new agents, part-time agents, helping them, you know, provide them with opportunities, provide them with things that can help them transition from part-time to full-time. That's always our goal, if that's their goal, or, you know, scale and grow from, you know, a certain number of transactions and increase that. And then we kind of shifted to, we started bringing in some really high producers, and those high producers attracted other high producers. And then we kind of shifted our focus more to high production agents, and staying in touch of, you know, those high producers that came over have another network of high producers that they network with, and they started referring agents over. And so kind of shifted focus for a while. You know, and then I felt like those high producers really expected, you know, hey, we're going to represent the brand. You know, our brokerage is providing value to the consumer through us, and so therefore we want to represent the brand, but we want to make sure all the agents in the brand are a good representation of us. So we had to really, if we're going to bring in new agents again, put a really strong mentor program in place. And kind of, on a high level, us pouring into those high producers and them being willing as a culture, fit to pour into the agents underneath them and kind of help, everyone kind of from the very bottom, feel supported. And so, but yeah, I think that's kind of been our approach. We're not, hey, we got to move into a new market. We have to move into here, there. It's just, where are we feeling like we're, just kind of lead, follow up with the warm people. Where are the warm people? Are there warm people in a new market? Are the warm people in our own backyard? Where are they at? And really just focus on those warm lead opportunities that are referred directly by the agents that work for us now.
And you also said a bunch of things that I'd like to go deeper on. So I like that you both, have it as your agents are your best recruiters. And I think that's huge. If your agents are happy, they're going to talk about it. They're going to promote the company. They're posting on social media. They're, having conversations at open houses. And that naturally is going to attract other agents. So for us, we have a business development team, and their sole purpose is, I know people hate these words, but recruiting and retention. That's what they do every single day. And Colby, to your point, it's not just like the cold calling. You have to build relationships with these people. This is a relationship business, whether it's with buyers and sellers or with agents joining your company. It's all about building that relationship. So they are, constantly attending other agents' open houses just to get to know them and, get FaceTime with them. They're going to realtor events, talking to people. So all of that, building that relationship before they even get into having a conversation about switching brokerages, and, they'll throw in little things here and there that pique the other agent's interest, and that, makes the agent want to learn more about the company, and then they can sit down and go through the whole presentation and such. But I do agree, and we tell the agents, what other career can you pick and choose who you get to work with? And that resonates with the agents, and they're the ones who are doing it every single day out there in the field with the agents, so they know who's a good fit, who could be a really good agent with just a little more training. So I like that. Now, when it comes to onboarding an agent, we hear from so many agents. When I joined my company, I was just thrown to the wolves, and figure it out on your own was the approach. How important is it to your company to have an onboarding process? Scott, I know you mentioned it. What does the onboarding look like for your agents, Colby, when they join?
Yeah, I feel like, utilizing the tools that are available to you. Like for us, for example, I think Scott mentioned it too, but, recruiting, he's got a lot of tools, Happy Grasshopper, whatever, that do that. Bold Trail, Inside Real Estate has a recruiting platform, but they also have an onboarding platform through their back office software. So, I feel like just using tools that can create efficiency in that process and kind of track certain metrics that you'd like to know of where agents are at, and how, having those metrics, having things to kind of look at, having some KPIs, in place, some performance metrics to kind of look at, and having someone that's dedicated to onboarding, having someone that's dedicated to the agent experience, the agent, whatever is really another value. Like, hey, this person is going to be your agent success manager to help you, I think is another thing you could put into place, so they know, like, who do I go to? I'm never going to prioritize an agent's call. I mean, again, you can do it however you want, but based on, their production, I feel like, again, I do feel like we have a culture that, from the top, pouring into people that are here and then all the way to the bottom. But, I'm always going to prioritize making sure that agents feel heard and that their needs are being addressed. And so, even if that means just steering them to the right person that's going to support them in their business, and having some transparency and who to reach out to about what, I feel like having very kind of, instead of just like, here's all of our leadership team, I think Scott mentioned it, you go to our CFO for this, you go to this person for that, making sure that's very clear in your onboarding presentation package of who do they reach out to and when and for what. So, I think that all kind of plays very much hand in hand. And so, but yeah, utilizing tools is incredible way to do it, that that really tracks, what percentage they're at in your onboarding experience. And having tools that really support that is important, so that from a management level or ownership level, you can go in and see where all your people are at in the onboarding process, and are they 100% or are they only 50%? Have they watched the videos they're supposed to watch? Have they had the meetings they're supposed to have? Just kind of tracking in place is important, so that if that's important to you, you have something to refer back to that can help you know that everybody's being onboarded and where they're at in the process with that. So if there is a complaint, sometimes you can get in front of it that way too. So
for sure, yeah. I like that you having the ability to track those type of things, because what's the saying? What isn't tracked can't be improved. And it's it gives you a good pulse on what your agents, where they're at, what they're doing, where they're struggling, where they need help. So I like that. And Scott, what does your onboarding look like for agents?
So we have, again, Jennifer, who is responsible for that from day one until the agent feels comfortable enough to go out on their own. So it could be 3 meetings, it could be 5, and then they can come back and ask again. But they get a manual, and we're constantly reviewing our manual, updating the manual. One of the things that's so funny, we had a meeting about 45 minutes away this morning, and Jennifer and I drove down, and I said, hey, let's run the agent resource manual through AI to see where they think it could be improved, and then say, prepare this for a new agent, prepare this for an agent who sells between 5 and 15 houses, and prepare this for a top producing agent, and see what it looks like, and see if we should incorporate any of those new ideas that ChatGPT is going to come up with. So we're not only talking with the agents that have gone through the onboarding process, but now we're going to utilize AI to help us improve our systems and our onboarding. But in addition to that, we cross-train everybody in the company. So our office administrators know the programs in case an agent comes and talks to them if Jennifer's not available. Same thing with our transaction coordinators available to answer those questions. So it's important not just to have one person responsible, but to have the team know what's happening as well, so that the agents don't languish out there when they have a question. So the cross-training piece is important, but we do have the go-to.
Okay. Now, when you are looking to expand into a new market, you're opening up in a new town or things like that, what is it that you're looking for? Are you, going in with maybe an acquisition or a walkover, or are you starting brand new in a town? And if so, what are the key things you look for if you're opening in a new town? Colby, go ahead.
Yeah, I think for us, it's we have such a strong foundation where we started our company at, and so really is that foundation of are you aligned with a leader? You can go out and, like, again, I feel like you can go out and try to find great leaders in a market and try to expand that way, or how we've done it. We're always in front of people, and we'd like to partner with other leaders and figure out, hey, we have a common goal in place. How do we work together to make that happen and align ourselves? And so, again, it goes back to that attraction component. You bump into somebody in a market where you're willing to expand into, and they could be a great leader, or they are a great leader already in that market, and you can figure out a way to work together so that you can reach more people together. I think that's great. We haven't done any like buyouts of companies, but we have done a lot of walkovers, and I think a lot of that is just, again, a lot of different ways that can happen. I feel like, we did it here locally in our market where a company was acquired that was kind of an indie brokerage, very large indie brokerage. They were acquired. That company they were acquired by was more national corporate, and not every agent aligned with that. And, again, even though we are in other states and we are a larger brokerage, we kind of have that, we could still consider ourselves indie brokerage, and had several agents that just kind of all walked over in our current market. And then kind of similar things happen in other markets where, there was a recent acquisition. They were this brand, small mom and pop and or more, family feel, and then they got acquired. And then again, sometimes people aren't always gonna be retained there. And so, retention is like you said about relationships, and they may not have relationships at that company they were acquired by, or maybe the person they do have a relationship with is retiring out and they want a good place for their agents to land, and you work out some sort of a partnership or allegiance there where the agent that's retiring out or transitioning, into something else doesn't have to leave their agents hanging, but you can kind of work out some sort of a position leadership wise. Maybe they're branch lead or branch manager or branch a team owner or team leader. They transition from being brokerage owner to something different, but still supporting agents. Maybe they become a mentor in your company or what have you, and they don't want to, again, always advance with the AI and the technology and everything else. They want to put that in someone else's hands, but they want to still play a leadership role. You can work something out where you're not writing a huge check to get that company to join you. You're just aligning, efforts, and that's something we've, loved to do, is figure out that win-win-win solution where you can work together and nobody's really losing anything. They're not giving anything up. You're just aligning efforts together, and that could be a great thing to see happen. So, and then our agents have moved into other markets. An agent from, where we're at, they're like, hey, we're moving here. Can you grow with us there? We'd still like to stay part of your brokerage. That's always fun to figure out too, is how do we take our agents that we're with now, and if they move and they relocate, how do we move and relocate with them and grow with them? So.
I like that. It's an interesting. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't always have to be by way of acquisition. Roll-ins, walkovers, those are super beneficial, both financially and of course for growth. But yeah, I think that's always something that people should keep in mind. You don't have to go out and acquire these companies. They could just roll into an existing space, and that's going to help your growth. Scott, what about you when you're looking to, I know you've grown to 4 offices. How did that evolve? How did you decide where you wanted to go, or key things you were looking for?
So they were with mergers. We went and took companies over. There was retiring ownership. There was a need for somebody to move on in their lives with the direction of their business and where their lives were taking them. So that's how we've grown through the years, is that way. The one mistake I did make was build it and they will come, and 2 people came. So that wasn't the best advice that I received, was build it and they will come. So now we're looking at companies in other markets that have the reputations that are similar to ours, but people are in leadership are looking for more synergy, and they're looking for fresh ideas, and they want to grow their company. So we're talking with them about how we can make that happen with them. So I see that there's a lot of opportunities out there right now in the market to do so. So it's just a matter of us having more conversations with more people in smaller companies, not necessarily a larger company to go after, who needs the technology, who needs the support, and who wants the same resources that we have, but they want to stay in a leadership role with their company. And I feel that that's important for growth, and they can go out and spread the word down in the other locations where they are. So I think keeping those people in place, if they're the right people and have a similar culture to ours, it just seems like a natural fit for us.
Yeah, the similar culture, similar, processes and things like that is, I think, huge, because you can't have a completely different model, completely different commission schedule, and otherwise you're just going to lose all the agents. So there has to be some synergy there. And the whole build it and they will come, that was great in Field of Dreams. We also experienced that as well, where we struggled. It was a much, much slower startup than just joining forces with another company. So I agree with that 100%. It's much easier to grow when you're doing it in conjunction with someone.
Yeah, and consistency and leadership. It's an addition to not somebody new.
Yeah. All right. Great. So I think we're about at our time here. So I'm going to kick it back to TJ. TJ, if you want to just talk a little bit more about Bold Trail.
Yeah, thanks so much. This was awesome. I think this is what I kind of hear from this panel. I love to learn, right? And it makes me change everything I think. The industry is changing, and it's changing fast, and that's kind of always been a constant, right? It's evolving, and it's evolving at a faster speed than it has in the past. So if you're looking to scale your business, I think it's a requirement. You must have a technology platform that can change just as quickly, right? And that's where I think Inside Real Estate, who owns Bold Trail, is positioned uniquely as the only one, the only logical choice for agents, teams, brokerages, and offices over the next, let's call it 12 to 24 months. We innovate faster than anybody out there in the business, constantly, rapidly, but most importantly, we're innovating with the real estate professional at the center. And I think that's really, really critical. That is our North Star, is the real estate professional. So there's something on the screen, you can scan it, and I'm sure there's some magical way you can get in touch with us, but here you should know if you should scan it. We talked about forming relationships. I think Scott said, be their broker before I'm their broker. I love that line, Scott. That was awesome, right? So if you're looking at forming relationships with agents before you recruit them, but you need help identifying which ones to target, talk to us about the product called Recruit. We'll show you how that works and help you identify it. If you're looking for best-in-class client generation tools, you notice I didn't say lead generation tools, because I think we're trying to help people have conversations and have clients, not leads. Talk to us about our lead generation and our client generation products. If you want innovative tech that incorporates the latest AI, or you're just looking for a one-stop shop to streamline your business, just hit us up with this, and we will get in touch with you and follow up with you. But thank you all for being here.
Love it. Thank you, TJ. Scott, 15 seconds, one piece of advice for a broker looking to scale efficiently. Go.
Okay, I would say delegate, communicate, and educate if they screw up when they make a mistake, so that they don't make that mistake again. And if they make that mistake again, be quick to fire. Slow to hire, watch them grow, and again, give up things to help you focus on what makes you the best.
Love it. Stay in your lane and do what you're good at.
Yeah.
Colby, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this can be different for different people, but my advice, the way I do it, or I've always done it, I'm not growing by design, grow by relationship. I think we talked about that earlier. And focus on depth before width. I feel like, to Scott's point, if you build it, they will come. Sometimes you have to focus on, that depth before you start growing, width-wise, and, build your culture that, serves your agents at a high level. I think that's what TJ, Scott, everyone's kind of, you, Jackie, is, if you serve your agents at a high level and create systems that scale and that replicate the success you've experienced where you're at, that's my best piece of advice. And just bring value to your agents, and they'll bring value in return by being your best marketing tool. So
I love it. This was fantastic, gentlemen. Thank you all so much. Truly appreciate it. Hopefully the listeners got some good takeaways that they can implement and grow their business. And again, thank you to RISMedia for putting on this webinar. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks.